Welcome back to Hazardous Endeavors.
We're not dead.
And nor undead.
We are
True.
neither.
You've succeeded at not becoming dead or undead. Congratulations.
Woo!
All right, where we last left our intrepid adventurers, you have started the cleanup process of Kelehnall as the people are starting to attempt to clear the dead, to fix what has been broken, to mend the houses that were damaged by fire, and attempt to get back to some semblance of a normal life. I will say we will pick up 3 days after the incident itself, where you guys have had a chance to rest, take stock of things, assist around town where you wish. Let's go ahead and go around the table here and say kind of what you've been doing for your 3 days or so. Lindo, what have you been up to for 3 days?
I took a nap. And,
Okay.
I said hello to the daughter. That now I remember her. I did not tell her I forgot. I helped pick up things like
Okay.
a good boy should. And, not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
All right, Elliot.
I spent most of my time probably next to one of my companions because I just, after seeing all the death, I don't want to leave, be alone.
Okay.
But I'm all usually very quiet in the background working on copying spells from one spellbook to my spellbook.
Okay. And you're kind of reading through Seldith's spellbook from what you can find. Okay, I'll get back to you here in a moment then. Jaxom.
I, on the other hand, was not in the background.
Right.
Out helping with the cleanup, moving bodies, helping just pick up general debris and help getting things back on track.
Okay. So being very prominent out in the community, helping out and doing what you can.
Yes.
Okay. Wilf?
I've been finding packs of orphans and teaching them how to use slingshots so that they can defend themselves if this happens again.
Okay. Arming and training the populace. Gotcha. So,
That sounds amazing.
I know, doesn't it?
Lindo and Jaxom, as you guys have been helping out and, again, moving bodies, doing what you can to help the people are extremely appreciative, and word has gotten around that you all have been extremely helpful in what you've done. The rumor mill has already gone out saying that you guys were the ones who destroyed Kavro during his ritual that caused so much problem, and people are coming to you and hugging you, clapping you on the shoulders, telling you that at least several people are talking about loved ones that were saved because of what you've done. A few come up and thank you for all that you've done, even when they lost those they cared for, but for the most part, all the people who you talk to are just overflowing with gratitude.
Thank you. I accept your praise.
Right.
I also have started to pay the orphans like 2 copper per carrion bird that they take down because those things spread disease.
Okay. So you very quickly gather a gang of orphans with slingshots who over the course of the day or two start bringing you bodies of crows, ravens, pigeons, things like that. Eventually you start getting starlings and other small birds that have started to come back just because they see bird, they kill bird, they bring bird back for copper.
That's absolutely fair. I'll probably spend about 10 gold.
You get a couple
worth of
chickens,
copper.
a duck.
The chickens are great. I will take those chickens and I will give them to the owner, the innkeeper for.
Yeah, they don't mention where they found the chickens or who they belong to. They
I'm
just
not gonna
brought
ask
them
questions.
back. Right. So
you're going to destroy the foul ecosystem?
Jackson's on a freaking roll. All right.
Well, I thought I was taking an example from you and purging the foul and the unclean.
Is a pun funny when you use the same one twice?
No.
No.
It's a daily use thing.
Ah.
Yeah. You can only use that pun once per long rest. So, Elliot. You start flipping through and trying to find out what you can from Seldith's journal / spellbook.
Yes.
So you start reading it through because you kind of have to get through some of the journal pages to get to the spells. Mm-hmm. So you start reading it, and this journal goes back a good number of years. And it's a very old book. Looks like he's been using it, and some of the earlier spells are some of the spells you learned when you first started doing casting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the pages at that point are very much like, I traveled here, I did this, I talked with these people, and very mundane, normal things. And he seemed relatively normal. As you're flipping through, and you get through a lot of the basic spells that you already know, and as you start getting to kind of the more advanced things, you start noticing that his writings are getting a little bit more fragmented. His journal entries become less frequent, and when they are there, some of them are written almost like they were scrawled out in a hurry. And they happen around the time that he was assisting with an expedition into the Rotting Hills. And very little information comes from that portion of his journal, although that's when you start noticing that the spells after that are mostly of the necromantic variety.
Okay.
As you start progressing, you'll note that eventually you get to a point where near 15 years ago, if the dates are to be believed, was when he very, I would say, roundabout way, never specifically stating it, but very, very emphatically in the writing mentions that a major hurdle has been removed from his path and is now under his thumb. And that although careful preparation is needed to continue the ruse, he has what he needs to gain the power and the resources to continue his research.
He killed the king 15 years ago.
That's what you're getting the idea of, yeah.
That's pretty extreme.
Which friend are you hanging out with?
Huh?
You said you were hanging out with a companion, or one of your companions. Which one are
It
you
would
hanging out
be
with?
a different one each day.
Oh,
But it would be, specifically, I would be near that one. Near one of you. And it'd probably be Lindo first and Jaxom last.
Okay.
And that would be the one where I started to hear the weird stuff. And I'd
Yeah.
be telling him when, like, oh, it's been like 15 years since he's killed the king.
Really?
Yeah.
And when you think about it, Jaxom, the 15 years ago, not specific to date because it's hard to pinpoint, but the decline of the kingdom where things started to kind of level out, less urban renewal, more like urban stagnation started occurring. But it was always kind of this thing where the king was getting old. It always just kind of made sense. And the king appeared to be in his like mid-90s. So it kind of made sense that in his mid-80s or so, that's when he would start to his faculties would start going a little bit worse.
you would end up dead eventually.
Right. So with that knowledge and having it not quite cemented, but definitely very strongly hinted at, it almost makes sense to be like, oh man, that is when things started to kind of go downhill.
Answers so many questions.
Right.
Raises
So
a few more.
as you're progressing, as you're starting to get to the more recent entries, the references to something that was found in the Rotting Hills starts to reference that thing as master, as its teacher, as his benefactor, and starts mentioning that he's getting messages in his dreams, that he's getting contacted by this thing that is filling him with the knowledge he needs to gain that everlasting life that he so desperately desires.
Ookie.
Yes, very ooky.
You also note that in his writings he says several times, although it almost seems like he was reluctant to write it, that he could not have gained this power without this thing telling him what to do, without this person coaching him, and that it was even stated towards the end that gathering the brazier and sending off a group of mercenaries to go retrieve this, although my apprentice was sent out, she deemed to be too untrustworthy and power hungry to be left to her own devices, and that her being destroyed in the process could only be a good thing moving forward.
Oh, we did that.
Yeah.
Wait,
we were definitely
wait.
used.
Does that mean that we helped the Lich?
Yes, we most definitely helped the Lich in that
Whoops.
particular circumstance.
Yeah.
We
That
were none the
we
wiser,
discovered
though.
we were too strong, so we were removed when he actually did the ritual.
You find out her name was Celine, by the way, for what it matters.
Oh, no names, no names.
But that
Celine is dead.
she was a
Are you sad now?
a follower of one of the more Uki gods who contacted him when, through a different connection, and that he used her as a kind of gopher to go grab things. But his writing states that when she, when she was sent off to go retrieve the brazier, that she went off the rails and decided to become her own master and to use the power of the brazier, and that the mercenaries so luckily brought it back for him. And then up to where you get towards the back of the book, where after you turn a page and everything is written down in a script you do not recognize.
And I don't want to read it.
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's Draconic,
Nope.
Elven, or Primordial.
Nope.
I don't really want to read it. I do want to write down any spells that I don't have into my spell book, and then I'm going to burn the book.
Oh, come on, don't you want to get, cool tattoos of that language in the back of the book? I think that would be really cool tattoos.
Why do not
So-
to burn the book and take it over to someone who might know what it is?
In addition to a couple, some cantrip type spells, as well as things of the nature of, say, dancing lights and such like that, you are seeing spells of, Ray of Enfeeblement, Animate Dead, Bestow Curse.
Okay, because it will take me time to do that if you want to wait for not during session.
Yeah, well, I'll give you the full list
Okay.
later, but up into, by the way, and including the spell Revivify.
Revivify. I can't cast that one.
Correct.
So,
About midday on the third day, there is a commotion on the eastern edge of town where you see a group of people with fairly large carts making their way into town, and they are all wearing the livery of Anra'Lathan.
Oops, I didn't tell Belle about that.
Right. So they show up with carts laden with supplies. And as they're making their way into town, and people are starting to, the word spreads like wildfire, and yes, pun intended. And as people are starting to whisper about the fact that, the mages are here, they've come with supplies, they're demanding to talk to who's in charge. And then a lot of speculation amongst the townsfolk, even before the mages get halfway through the town, of who are they going to talk to? Who is in charge?
Bale.
Ale?
Currently Bale.
Elliot?
Currently Bale.
Jaxom.
Maybe Jaxom.
Currently Bale.
How old are you,
Yeah, but how
Jaxom?
would they know? Maybe they just go find you because
Bale's
you're the one who's
currently
looking for them.
running the relief effort. It would be Bale.
But you did not tell your parents this.
I didn't.
No. There's been radio silence, per se, since you last talked with them.
No, I've been reading a book. I will cast sending, because I have that now, and say to meet the local guard captain, Bale, and I will meet them there.
Okay. So, as you guys make your way to where Bale has, in the middle of the square outside the Church of Pelor, a standing structure has been erected where there are basically tables, maps, and supplies being gathered and spread out throughout the town. So that's where you guys meet up with the carts from Anra'Lathan. And as they approach, one of the mages in front, a very tall high elf with very angular features, not only wearing a set of robes, a very kind of utilitarian travel robes, but definitely seems to have some iconography on them that you guys don't quite recognize. Although, Elliot, you immediately recognize your master as Anavaar Frostmoon.
Run up and give him a big hug.
He looks like he's about to say something to the group of people as you run up and hug him, and he almost seems like a little kind of oh yes, oh Elliot, and he hugs you very tightly, and You guys, the rest of you see this very warm, fatherly smile appear on his face. He tousles your hair slightly as he looks down at you, and
Little bits of frost.
See, if that was my father, I would have to check my pockets afterwards.
he gives you and kind of rubs your back for a moment and just whispers to you the thank the gods that you are safe. Thank you. And
guess I'm a hero of the town now.
Congrats.
he smiles broadly and says, "We'll talk soon. I have business."
No, I think I'm going to talk as well. I have business with Belle. Also.
Bale, yes, we were told by one of the guards that we were to meet with Bale as well. So who is this Bale? To which Bale stands up, and you note that his arm is out of a sling, seems to have gotten some healing, and he stands up and gives a kind of a half bow. And
That strappy lad over there, the one with 2 arms.
I am Captain Bale Candor of the Kelenhall City Watch. Who may I ask are you? And your father steps forward and introduces himself as Anavaar Frostmoon. I am the professor of abjuration at the University of Anra'Lathan. I have been sent with aid and supplies for your city. And he motions back to there's about 3 carts that at this have tarps lashed down to the top of them because of how much is actually in them.
Neat.
Says that
Full.
the Triumvirate has allowed these supplies to be sent here under the condition that talks start amongst our peoples. There had been a time many years ago where the people of Kelehnall and the people of Anra'Lathan were more open with their trade, their borders, and their communication, and that time needs to start again if we are to allow these supplies to be used.
You think that maybe they stopped talking about 15 years ago?
Give or take.
Is it about 15 years ago, Master?
He looks, and talks did break down nearly 15-20 years ago. Yes, there were troubled times.
Yeah, that sounds like when the
figure.
late king died.
He nods, because remembering what you were talking about before, and he says, "Perhaps we should sit down and you can explain." Bale kind of nods and says, for what it's worth, as we stand right now, I agree 100% to your terms. I am, I suppose, in charge for now until something is figured out, where leadership can be decided. So for now,
Leadership
on
like
behalf of Kelehnall, I agree to your terms. I cannot say what will be done when new leadership has been decided, but for now, absolutely.
So would he now be considered a provisional governor?
Do you ask him that?
Yeah.
Bale, he almost seems to lose a little bit of color, kind of coughs to the side. If I must, then yes, I suppose I...
Look at you, Bill.
Well-
Hitting politics.
He looks really uncomfortable with it, but just kind of shakes his head. If I must for Kelehnall, I will. Anavaar says, "Very well then, that is good enough for me." He motions to the people behind him, and you see the others who are traveling. Several others are in robes as well, but a good amount of the people who are here are wearing kind of more utilitarian, kind of porter clothes. So they start immediately unloading the carts, and Bale points them to a couple of the other volunteers to start liaison and getting the supplies out to people and what needs to be done. So all of that work starts very quickly and starts going very efficiently in the background.
Well, look at that.
As
It's like we don't have to do anything. We'll
Bale-
just sit here and never say anything.
Good luck with that. On the not saying anything part.
Let's sit in on this meeting. They might be discussing important things.
Bale motions to a couple stools that are sitting out and next to a table, and he
We're
motions.
like official.
You all should join us, of course. You are instrumental, and you have information that might be helpful to everyone.
Yes.
Anavaar nods. Yes, please. Please do so.
I have been studying the Grand Vizier's journal.
Riveting read. I said, I'm sure it was a riveting read.
It was a difficult and troubling read. Sounds like he found something in the Rotting Hills during an expedition, and about 15 years ago, he murdered the king and made him a white in order to continue his research in order to become a lich. He has succeeded in this goal.
Anavaar looks very upset.
We've defeated him for now, but as liches are, well, liches.
Right.
Bitches are bitches.
Liches
Yes.
get stitches.
Eh.
They would. It's only a matter of time till he comes back. He also has a master in the Rotting Hills.
Then,
What also rhymes with liches?
but we don't know anything about this master, do we?
Witches.
I couldn't glean enough out of the thing, out of the book. There's a bunch of it near the end that I cannot read.
Bale just kind of leans back and seems to take a breath and just kind of lost in thought for a moment. Anavaar holds out his hand. If I may.
Sure.
Thank you. He flips open, he kind of flips through it, and then knits his brow slightly as he goes through, glares at one page when he's looking at some of the necromantic spells, continues flipping through the book till he gets towards the back, and he looks at it, and let's see. Well, that's a natural 20. So he takes a look at the page, and interesting. These are in a language that hasn't been spoken for hundreds and hundreds of years.
What language is that?
There is a dialect that was used as a communication method of the forces of Bane during the War of Ascension. It was almost a cipher, a code. I don't have a head for this sort of thing. This was never my area of expertise. But if they were using this to communicate, if he learned this language, then wherever he learned it from, whatever taught him this, would have to have learned it from someone who was alive during the War of Ascension.
Okay, so it's old.
Alive during the
Incredibly
War of
so.
Ascension.
There's only a few scholars that I know of who have the ability to decipher this.
Master,
Yes.
the War of Ascension, the only thing I know that might be powerful enough to hold a consciousness for that would be the armors, would it not?
He thinks about it for a moment. That is one theory, yes, I suppose.
The what?
The armor of both Kelehnall Brightblade and the Hand of Bane, they were lost. They were hid away amongst the dark places of the world.
Well,
Or were they?
Have seemed to have found a piece of them.
You can motion at me, but no
Yeah.
one can hear you.
Yeah, fine. Be that way. As I reveal the gauntlets, the bracers. Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of show off the bracers there, and he stands up from the table and leans over and looks at them. If those are what you say they are, that is miraculous. Where did you find them?
A tower.
we found them in the Tower of Ograd, in the
Coleman's Rest.
in Coleman's Rest.
The ancient lighthouse.
Yes,
yes.
where the brazier was.
I was
boots.
able to, on one of the floors, open up a rather difficult magical lock, and we found them
He
there.
smiles slightly, like, yeah, of course you were.
And we found them there. When we pulled them out, a large light appeared, and we found those bracers, as well as, and I pull out my staff, one of the artifacts of
The Dawn Guard.
Dawnguard, and these became active. Because of that, I believe that is the general article.
I see. And as he looks around, he starts. His gaze wanders, and he's actually looking at various pieces of equipment you all are wearing of the symbols of the Dawn
I
Guard.
see you are checking out my new duds.
Yes, I am. All of the equipment you're wearing, this is interesting.
What I'm saying
Yes.
is if he learned something from a person from the War of Ascension, the only thing I can think of that he would have would be a piece of the Black Hand. So armor.
I see. This is very troubling.
It would be.
Well, if everything you say is true, and I'm inclined to believe you, and Bale just nods emphatically at this point.
I have no idea what is going on.
It's not unusual.
Bale actually kind of leans over to you and says, the Vizier
Okay.
learned bad magic from a piece of armor in the Rotting Hills.
If the armor talks?
I have no idea.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one lost here.
Yeah. Anavaar
Okay,
at this
Bale
point
got
is like
it.
leaning forward in on his stool, and he's just like almost starts rambling about like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Of course, it would only
It wouldn't be a ramble because it's a conversation.
right. Although
It's a rambling
half of it seems to be
conversation.
him almost like saying it to himself and then like
Agreeing with himself.
and then talking to you and then agreeing with you and then back and forth as
See where
Elliot,
he gets it.
Elliot and Anavaar are just like firing back and forth across the table
It's
about
like they're related or something.
like, oh, the consciousness might have been in that, but it would
Have
make
you
sense.
noticed,
But
though,
perhaps it would be that old, and if it was
that his
talking and
father
teaching this, and it would make
Looks
sense.
nothing like him.
Yeah, no, remember, we talked about this. Elliot's an alien.
Okay, but doesn't that mean his father should be alien too?
Oh, you could get adopted.
So he's an adopted alien?
Where else is an alien gonna get their father?
Okay, that's fair.
He looks over at Elliot and he like stops for a moment. He looks and says, "You must come home soon. I mean, when you're done doing what you're doing, you must come home. Emmett's worried sick about you, and what you have discovered and the items that you are bearing, they require further study. The university will need to see you."
I agree that the universe does need to see me, but we do have a mission for the now.
I understand, and I myself must assist here when I can and open the lines of communication between Anra'Lathan and Kelehnall. But until then, remember, home when you
Yes.
can.
Okay, I have a question.
So father didn't come with you?
No, he had to stay behind. He's assisting with other matters at this point.
Quick
I close
question.
my eyes and use one of my other third level spells to send him a message of saying hi and I'm okay.
You get a fairly quick response of, Elliot, yes, oh, good, yes, come home soon. I'm busy now, but come home soon. And then, kind of cuts.
Don't you live where there's a giant library?
Yes?
Didn't you say earlier we need to go to a library?
We need to go to we need to find out information from this city.
Okay,
Anavaar
but
says,
most of it burned.
Anavaar says that what's in the back of this book, this language, there really are only a handful of scholars that I know of that can decipher this. The closest one is in Abbott's Field.
Well,
And who would that be?
Lore Master Darna. She is one of the... you Jaxom, you know exactly who that is. Is this dwarf lady who is basically like the historian and record keeper of Abbott's Field.
Nah,
What is an Abbott's Field?
that's where I grew up.
You grew up in that field?
yeah, an abbot's field.
Field
makes
full
sense.
of abbots.
What's an abbot? Is that
Someone
like a rabbit, but with no ears?
No, I think it's the person who's in charge of like a church vacation home.
I'm sorry, master.
The what?
I'm intrigued, really. You see this elf is looking at you with like a curious expression on his face, and he's just kind of watching you. Your thought process is fascinating.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're
Your
You're mistaking
ears are
it.
fascinating.
You're mistaking the ramblings of what's left of his mind for thought.
I think. With a
That
brain,
was
even.
rather mean, Jackson.
Therefore,
was.
he is.
Bale,
I'm
kind of,
thinking right now, very rude things at you, even.
Bale kind of
Okay.
raises a hand slightly, like,
Yes.
Hello,
Looks-
Bale.
Yes, Bale.
so at this juncture, what is your plan? What are you going to do?
Well, we have 2 missions. 1, defeat the armor. And 2,
Yes?
Find the kid.
find the kid.
Kid is good.
I mean, mind you, he's probably not so much a kid anymore because the king's been dead for 15 years, so he's probably going to be a little bit older.
Do you think he's at least 15?
At least, I
Have you-
should really hope.
Got any further in finding us a...
Bale shakes his head.
All
Says,
right.
Then that
There's a
will-
lot to do here in town. Perhaps if you were to go and take care of more urgent matters, I will look. Look, nobody wants to pass off the leadership of Kelehnall more than I do. Perhaps while you are gone, I
can
can
make a
find
fashion
out more
leader.
information about. Thank you, I suppose. But perhaps I can find out more information about this long lost son, or at least who might be able to take over leadership of Kelehnall.
Right. So yeah, we can deal with seeking out the Lordmaster now, and then worry a little bit later about the succession of the throne.
Ah. To Rabbit's Field we go, yes?
To Rabbit's Field we go. We've got a hair up our arse on this.
Haha! I don't get it. Let's go!
Hair, rabbits.
What?
Get it?
What, the rabbits have hair?
Yes.
Ah.
Master, that book,
Yes, Elliot.
I will need it back.
Oh, yeah. He just kind of hands it over. Of course. Now, you don't have to have me tell you that you probably should not be casting some of the spells in there, right? I mean,
Absolutely not. I will not be doing some of the spells, but I'm going to probably pull some of the necromantic spells.
he
The more better ones.
You just basically told your father you're going to do drugs.
he says, you know, the university's stance on necromancy.
Necromancy does not only include the spells of evil, Father.
We know
It revivify.
the specific spells that are sanctioned for use versus the spells that are restricted.
I'm not gonna learn Raise Dead. Well, not Raise Dead, but I'm not gonna make zombies.
Not without the proper license, you will not.
There's a license to make zombies?
With there are
Uh-huh.
certain sanctions that can be placed and certain allowances in times of dire need.
Well, I think that this is a very animated discussion.
Ha!
We should probably try to start making plans to head off to Rabbit's Field.
I want to... okay, right. Rabbit's Field we go. Twitch.
Bale, he stands up and he says, very well, look, take whatever supplies you need from what we have available.
A ticket cart. I'll have that one.
No.
No, we
We're
don't-
not gonna
we don't
take
need a
the
cart.
No, we're not going to take the
We've been taking carts everywhere else we go.
I actually think a cart might be a better idea. It's a number of days, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
We're not going to take their cart.
No, we're not going
Oh.
to take their cart, but we should take a cart.
Excellent. We'll take a cart. We'll take some supplies.
It's near on almost like a week and a half travel from
Yes.
Kelehnall to Abbotsfield.
Then a cart would probably be best.
Rations.
Trail rations can absolutely be acquired for you.
Keep Anders and Tillman out of trouble.
Yes, although they have been a very big help. They spoke nothing but good things about your travels and about what you've done. And
That's good. I
the
thought Tillman
vampire,
didn't like
it
us.
was.
Yeah,
Anavaar perks up. There was a vampire?
it bit me. It was very rude.
You've been bitten?
Well,
Bale like kind of slowly looks over at Wilf.
I got better.
He shook it off.
Wait.
Vampires need to... Oh, wait, I didn't actually roll that high. Lindo's the only one who knows how vampires work.
It's fine.
I'll trust Lindo on this one.
Yeah?
I've dealt with vampires a few times. It's okay.
I have walked into the church. If I was a vampire now, I would, be on fire?
I don't think that's how that works.
Bale shrugs slightly. That seems to make sense. Anavaar kind of thinks about it for a moment. Yeah, that does have some truth to it, yeah.
And if anything, I've been craving steaks, not fearing them.
You did have yours medium
Wrong
rare,
spelling.
though.
So you guys are provided with rations, your stores are basically replenished, and you guys are handed a cart with 2 horses to pull it. And basically wished the best of luck. There's a small crowd that gathers as you're leaving town, with people waving, cheering, and wishing
Goodbye,
you the best.
fans.
Mysteriously not paying any attention and like copying over stuff in the book, pretending I'm not there.
Okay. And thus you leave Kelehnall, heading south upon the road.
I princess
been-
wave.
You've been down this road a little bit
Elbow,
before when you were making
elbow,
your way
wrist.
to the Ruinwood, but as you're making your way out, it's a nice, bright, early morning. The countryside is fairly clear, although there is a bit of a sheen from the recent rains, and everything kind of smells kind of fresh and clean as you're making your way down the road.
That's good because we have smelt a lot of dead people recently.
Yes.
Lindo,
Eh?
you said you wanted to be able to float around the stage, correct?
Yes. Did I? If I didn't remember saying it, then I do think that that is something I would want to do because I am me. Yes, I would
I
like
learned
to fly.
that spell. Do you want to try it?
Ha. What?
Jaxom.
Flying?
Yes.
Before you left town,
Yes.
Bale would have handed you a scroll case and asked that you deliver this to Blightwatch to inform them of what has happened, and that you warn them that if there is trouble brewing in the Rotting Hills, that they need to be prepared.
Of course, of course.
I go up behind Lindo, pat him on the back,
I got this.
Okay.
I got this.
and with a feather,
Okay.
with probably a chicken feather, because that
Yeah.
doesn't matter which kind, and go, I call upon the realm of the Jinn,
Okay.
float, and I cast fly on him
Ooh. Lindo can fly.
for an hour.
Unbalanced, uncareful, wiggling off the ground. Yeah, it's not so bad. Okay. Okay, how do I start going up?
Just think about it, Lindo.
Okay, I'm thinking about going up. Thinking
Lindo
about going
starts
up because I'm scared.
to fly up
if-
into the air.
If Lindo floats by me, I try to push his leg to see if he starts spinning.
I'm nervous.
You absolutely just like swat his foot as he goes by, and Lindo just starts to spin and rise.
Stop touching me! Stop touching me!
How high up there do you think he could get?
I'm a little bit worried, because if that spell ends, which, by the way, my eyes are currently glowing,
Right.
he will just straight up fall.
Just arms kind of waving wildly, feet kicking, Lindo floating and flying above the cart, kind of big circles going up and then kind of slowly coming down.
You're doing great. You're doing great. I guess I start working on my project again.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Lindo,
Ah!
just think about going down.
Down. Nope, thinking about going up again.
You are up there for an hour. I'll tell you when the spell's about to end.
Down, 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 down.
As Lindo just like basically face first starts flying towards the ground,
Up, 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 up.
pulls up in a nosedive. You know, go ahead and give me an acrobatics check, Lindo.
Nat 20
So
plus 9.
okay, so about 20 minutes into this escapade here, Lindo starts flying around gracefully, doing tumbles and flips and dive bombing the cart here and there.
Maverick.
Check it, Wilf. I'm like a swallow.
Oh, doubt that's the first time you've said that.
Eh? Dun, 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 dun. Boop, 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 boop.
If the other two want to try, I can do that tomorrow.
Nope. I was created close to the ground, and close to the ground is where I should remain.
I actually think, Jaxom,
I can
it
do
would be
that.
very good for you to practice flying. It might be good against flying enemies to have you in the air.
I believe
Could be interesting.
this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the first 2 days of travel outside of Kelehnall are basically pristine, clear. You're not bothered on the road. You're able to find nice camping spots off to the side because travel between Abbotsfield and Kelehnall is somewhat common. It's not, it doesn't happen like constantly, but there is, spots along the side of the road that are already kind of pre-set up with fire pits and like embedded logs or stones that have been set up in circles for people to set their wagons next to or to create camp. So you aren't having to find spots to camp. They're already pretty much there. But 3 days out, you guys are nearing where the turnoff to head off to Blightwatch is. And as you're making your way along, the Ruinwood is off to the west of the road as you're heading south. And you come to a crossroads. There's the signpost, and one post pointing north leads up to Kelehnall. One post leading south that says Abbotsfield. One heading east to Blightwatch, and one headed west to a town listed as Wayfarer's Rest. It is getting on towards evening, and there is what looks to be a notice
Anra'Lathan.
pinned to the signpost itself.
What does
What's
notice
it say?
I try to read it and I fail because I cannot read.
Lindo,
Uh-huh.
could you move a little to the left?
Okay. I move to the right.
What's the sign say?
Lindo!
Okay. Left.
There is the notice that is there in very flowy script, very well presented, is almost like an advertisement as what looks to be a bardic performance by someone who is named Brenda Lightfingers.
Oh.
And saying that she is
We have to go
playing
now.
at the inn and in Wayfarer's Rest, and that you get the idea from the flyer that only fools and idiots would miss out on the opportunity to hear the beautiful lyrics and music that Brenda Lightfingers brings to the stage.
I happen to not be a fool.
If I'm reading it out loud for Lindo,
I am
doing it
obviously not a fool.
in a fake, pompous, nobleman's voice
Okay.
the entire time.
All right.
Yeah, I like it when you use voices.
So,
I think we should check this out. It can't be that far down the road.
What is the travel time to Wayfarer's Rest?
go ahead and give me an intelligence check, please.
Well, apparently intelligence checks are what we do today.
Natural 20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You start thinking about it, and at first you're like, Wayfarer's Rest? Why does that not sound familiar? And then, almost like out of nowhere, you're like, oh no, yeah, it's only like an hour off the main road.
Oh. I think we should go to Wayfarer's Rest. We can actually be in a town. We can get a couple ales. Obviously.
A bath.
And see this wonderful Miss Lightfinger?
Light
Are we
fingers.
going to have a battle
She
of the
sounds
bands?
tantalizing.
I mean, if she sucks, I have no compunction against, not rocking her socks off,
Right. So as you turn off the main road, heading west towards the outskirts of the Ruinwood, and making your way to the town of Wayfarer's Rest, we will end today's session. So thank you, dear Digidicers, for joining us, and until next time,
Game on, internets!